Welcome back to the Hoop Portal. The ACC SEC Challenge is over. The SEC has won it for a second year in a row, but it wasn't as dominant last year. 14-2 last year. This year 9-7. We don't quite understand the gravity of what this is going to mean when we get to March, but we do know that the SEC will get the nod over the ACC if there's bubble teams and people getting pitted up against each other. Check the video description below to see the chapters. Jump ahead to what you want to listen to. Like, share. Let's go. 3 things we left out, okay? Under 5,000 fans for the Pitt A&M game. Pitt, I remember the days of the Big East. Wanamaker, DeJuan Blair, the Pitt, the Zoo was rocking. You guys got to do a little bit better. Cal moves to 7-1 on the season. They did not participate in the challenge, but they have picked up 2 back-to-back wins over UCLA and Utah. And then I've got no clue what to make of Wake Forest. 2 one-point losses to Michigan and Texas Tech, and then they go and lose by 18 at home to Oklahoma. Now, top scorers for the challenge. Boozer, 29 points for Duke against Florida. Overton, 29 points for Auburn against NC State. And Philon had 29 points for Alabama over Clemson. The best performances, though, overall, I'm going to give it to Boozer and Howe for that Duke-Florida game. Boozer obviously ended up with 29 points, had 6 rebounds. Howe had 24.6 rebounds. They were leveled 24 and 24 on points. Boozer scored or assisted on Duke's final 8 points to get the 1-point victory. Cam Boozer, to me, was the player of the challenge for the ACC. He solidified himself as the best freshman in the country, but more on that later. Jalen Carey, 22 points, 9 rebounds off the bench for Tennessee against Syracuse, which did still end up as a loss. His younger brother, Vernon Carey, and he was just a bully throughout the night on 10 of 16 shooting. Amani Hansberry and Nicholas Abdallas for Virginia Tech came up big. Hansberry, 22 and 14. Abdallas, 13, 8 and 8 in their overtime win over South Carolina. And then again, Kevin Overton, 29 points against the Wolfpack, 6 of 9 from the three-point line. That is your SEC player of the challenge. Biggest win, Arkansas over Louisville. Louisville lived and died by the 3. They shot 22% tonight, 8 for 37. And again, they shot more 3s than they shot 2s. That's their agenda. It's worked against Kentucky. It's worked against a couple teams. Didn't work tonight. But the 3 big things for Arkansas in that game, they got the lead early and they held on to it. They led 6-0 and then 11-10, and then at that point, they just kind of never really looked back. They out-rebounded Louisville by 10, and then they made more free throws than Louisville even took. So when you look at that type of situation, that's just a recipe for winning the game. Early lead, win the rebounding battle, and you're more aggressive. They shot 27 of 35 from the free throw line to Louisville's 14 of 18. And then also just quick shout out to Trevin Brazile. This is a guy who he has spent 4 seasons in Arkansas. He's faced ACL injuries amongst other injuries. He was there under the must bus. He stayed, saw the Cal era through, and it's just one tough dude. And then even tonight, he finished with 21 points and 5 rebounds, but just shout out to him for sticking that through, fighting through injuries, not hitting the transfer portal every season. Props to him. And then Syracuse over Tennessee, to me, was also probably the second biggest win. Syracuse is our league pass team of the ACC. No clue if they're going to finish 5th, 10th, 13th, where they'll be in the ACC, but my goodness, the vibes are great up in Western New York. They're fun to watch. They've got this New York vibe to them that starts with Anthony, and there's something, too, just about watching left-handers ball, and Nate Kings was great tonight, 19 points against Tennessee. Shout out to Oregon Hoopers, man. Shout out to Pacific Northwest Hoopers. Worst loss on paper. Florida State loses by 34 points at home to Georgia. They got out-rebounded by 21. The score was 23-18 at one point. Georgia goes basically 84-55 from that point, which sounds almost worse than the final score of 107-73. Don't ask me why. Georgia went 29 of 40 inside the three-point line. It was layup after layup after layup. Nobody stopping the ball. It was a rough showing by Florida State, but a great showing by Georgia. That could be one of those big games when they get down to the bubble, depending on where those two teams end up finishing in their respective conferences. Now, that was the worst loss. The heaviest loss, Kentucky against North Carolina. Mark Pope is on the hot seat in Lexington. Whether you agree it's too soon or not, it is. The Boo Birds were out in Lexington on that game, and it was a rough game to watch whether you were a Carolina or Kentucky fan, and whoever lost that game was going to be in a tough situation. They've got no good wins at UK right now. They've lost to MSU by 17. They've lost to North Carolina at home. They could go 2-4 in their next 6 stretch, which includes games against Gonzaga, Indiana, St. John's, and Alabama to open up SEC play. The crazy thing is I don't think this has hit its lowest point yet. They probably need some grace given the injuries that have come up, and they have played a really difficult schedule. Can they get Lowe back? Can they get JQ back? But the Kentucky fan base is clearly extremely frustrated, And in that game, too, the offense was so bad for Kentucky. They went, 13 minutes without a made field goal, 1 of 13 from the 3-point line, and they got out rebounded by 11 against Carolina. I've never called for anyone's job on this channel, and I hopefully never will. But Kentucky fans, you guys get in the comments. Let me know if you think Mark Pope should stay, should he go, or if it's way too early to tell, which is what I think it is. He's only in his second year, I believe. Most shocking team, Virginia going to Austin and beating Texas by 19. I do really like this Virginia team. They played 9 players over 10 minutes. This showed them they have some depth. 40 points off the bench, 18 assists on 28 made field goals, 7 turnovers, controlled the game from start to finish. I think they're up 25 at one point as well. 7-1 now. Only loss against Butler, who could end up being second or third in the Big East when this is all said and done. Huge game for them on Saturday against Dayton. We've already seen what the Flyers did against BYU and a couple other teams in that ESPN tournament. They'll play Maryland, and then they'll get into ACC play. And shout out to Ryan Odom, and that leads us into our final segment, which is 3 things that we've learned taking from this going forward. 1, the ACC got it right this summer. The coaching hires that they brought in, they seem to be doing well. Ryan Odom to Virginia. He's a Virginia guy. That's a big win for them to go into Austin and win by 20. Jay Lucas to Miami, going to Ole Miss, who was a tournament team last year, being more tough than them, being more physical, winning that game. And that's a huge win for where that program is at right now and in comparison for the last couple of years. Jay Lucas is one of the best recruiters in the country. His nods to JL3 and stuff in Houston and his ties in Texas allow him to go basically any gym in that state and recruit guys. Now he's got the Florida base. He's a defensive scheming coach. And they've held a couple teams under 70. They've held Georgetown and Ole Miss to under 70 in their last 2 wins, as well as even losing to BYU, but still held BYU to 72 points. So looking really good for them in Miami. And then Will Wade hired NC State. I think NC State was impressive against Auburn. Auburn shot the lights out of the ball. It was still a close game. Now, part of those shooting lights out was NC State not defending the 3-point line well. But I was still impressive to see them go do that, especially after a rough outing in Maui, picking up 2 losses. I'm not saying NC State is this great team right now, but I think the Will Wade era is giving them expectations that we haven't seen in Raleigh in quite some time, and they're learning how to deal with that. But I think going into the jungle in Auburn and putting a showcase like that with that team shooting lights out was really good by them. So the ACC got it right this summer, picking up these coaching hires. Number 2, SEC basketball is here to stay. They're not going to get 14 teams in the tournament again. That was historic, but they're clearly still one of the top conferences in the country. And to me, it's either them or the Big Ten. I give the slight edge to the Big Ten from what we've seen so far, but the SEC is still right there, and they're obviously just a notch above. The ACC, the Big East really only has 1 team, maybe 2 to 3, depending on St. John's and Butler. And then the Big 12 is a tough one, but I still would give the nod just over to the SEC. Programs like Alabama, Florida, Vanderbilt, Auburn, Arkansas, they're here to stay. And even with teams like Kentucky, Texas, Tennessee, they're going to level out this season. I know it hasn't been great for them throughout the start, but I think they're, again, programs that will continue to shine. So SEC basketball is here to stay. Third, the best freshman in the country debate is over. Cam Boozer is the best freshman in college basketball. And as far as the number 1 pick goes, the NBA draft is not obviously based on what exactly you do in college. It's based on potential. It's based on build. It's based on team need. But Boozer, as far as it goes for college basketball season right now, he's probably the best player in the country. He's definitely the best freshman in the ACC, and he definitely seems like the best freshman in the country. The second half against Texas, the buckets against Kansas, 35 against Arkansas, and then the ability to score 5 points and assist on the final 3 in that game against Florida, have another 29-point game against the best front court in the country. We gave Kobe Pete his flowers early in the season for Arizona when they beat Florida, and he had 30 points. Boozer does the same tonight and ends up picking up the win. So you got to give him his flowers. Boozer's ridiculous, and he's just fun to watch. He's a really tough kid. He can shoot the ball. He can pass it. He can do just about anything. He probably even looks a little bit better than Cooper Flagg up to this point due to the shot-making ability as well. Cooper obviously probably was a better defender based on what I've seen. I don't know what the numbers would dictate and if that doesn't match up. But Boozer's shooting, I think, almost 40% from 3 right now. So nod to him. The best freshman in the country debate is over. Thank you guys for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe to enter your name in the portal. Get your comments in. Debate me. Call me an idiot. It doesn't matter. I love engaging back with you guys. See you guys on the next one.